You are being controlled by something unseen. It's silent, hidden, and invasive. You can't see it or feel it, yet it resides within you, steering every decision you make without your awareness. The most alarming part? You've allowed it in. It's like a parasite, a shadow slipping between your thoughts, hiding behind every excuse, every "I'll do it later," and every "it's not the right time." It doesn't confront you as an enemy, but poses as a friend. It soothes you, whispering that tomorrow will be better, that there's still time, and you believe it. But here's the hard truth you don't want to hear. It's stealing your life, minute by minute. Every moment that passes without you breaking free from its grip is another wasted opportunity, another step away from the person you could be. Even worse, it convinces you that it's not to blame, that it's just who you are, that you've never been consistent, disciplined, or capable without a surge of motivation. But this is a lie that holds millions in a life of mediocrity, repeating the same days over and over, hoping for change without making it happen. You, watching this video, probably recognize this story too well. You have dreams, big goals, ideas that could transform your life. You know deep down that you could achieve so much more, but something keeps holding you back. Something invisible stops you from moving forward, turning every opportunity into a burden, every challenge into an excuse to remain stagnant. Now be honest, how many times have you felt that knot in your stomach, the sensation that time is slipping away and you're doing nothing about it? How many times have you promised yourself that tomorrow will be different, only to wake up and repeat the same cycle? How often have you felt that maybe you're the problem, that maybe you're just not strong enough, disciplined enough, or good enough? Let me tell you something. It's not your fault. It's not because you're weak, not because you lack talent, not because you weren't made for success. The problem is your mind has conditioned you to avoid effort, to protect you from discomfort, and without realizing it, you've fallen into its trap. But here's the good news. You can break free. You can escape this cycle, tear off the shadow that binds you, and start moving forward. But it won't be easy. Your mind will resist. It will try to sabotage you, convincing you that you can't do it. But if you're still listening, it means a part of you already knows the truth, that you're not doomed to this prison, that there is a way out. Do you want to know how? Keep watching. This is the moment where everything changes. It doesn't matter how long you've been stuck in inaction. It doesn't matter how many times you've tried and failed. It doesn't matter if you feel that laziness has taken complete control of your life. Today, we're going to break that cycle. We're going to rip that shadow from your mind and ignite the engine of action. But listen carefully, because this is where most people go wrong. They try to change everything all at once. They wake up one day full of energy, convinced that this time they will transform their life. They make a massive, ambitious plan. But just a few days later, they feel exhausted, frustrated, and fall back into their old patterns. Why? Because they're fighting against their own nature. They don't understand how the human brain works, and that's why they stay stuck. Your brain is designed for survival. It's not programmed for success, growth, or personal development. Its only mission is to keep you alive while using as little energy as possible. Here's the issue. Any change, any effort, any attempt to step outside your comfort zone, your brain perceives as a threat. It doesn't care if you want to improve, build something big, or transform your life. All it sees is that you're trying to expend more energy than necessary, and that's enough to trigger its defense mechanism, laziness. This is why you procrastinate. This is why you put everything off for later. This is why you feel resistance every time you try to do something important. Your brain is fighting to keep you in the state of least effort possible. But here's the trick. You can outsmart it. You can outsmart it. There's a strategy that deactivates its resistance and makes it cooperate rather than sabotage you. This is the first rule. Make it small. This is where most people fail. They think too big, too soon. They tell themselves, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start working out for 2 hours a day. I'm going to read a book a week. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. But what happens? They hit a wall. They feel overwhelmed. They can't keep up. And within days, they give up. Why? Because they were trying to move a mountain instead of starting with a pebble. The key is to make your task so ridiculously small that it's impossible to fail. Instead of saying, I'm going to write a book, say, I'm going to write 1 sentence a day. Instead of saying, I'm going to exercise for an hour, say, I'm going to do 1 push-up. Instead of saying, I'm going to read every day. Say, I'm going to read 1 page. It seems trivial, but here's the magic. Small actions lead to big changes. The hardest part isn't completing the task. It's starting. Once you break the barrier of inaction, it's much easier to keep going. Think about it. If I tell you to sit down and write an entire chapter, you might procrastinate. But if I tell you to write just 1 sentence, it's so easy that you can't refuse. And once you've written 1 sentence, what happens? You're likely to write another, and another, and another. Before you know it, you've written more than you expected. But it all started with something so small that your brain couldn't resist. The mistake most people make is underestimating the power of small actions. They believe that if they're not making big changes, they're not progressing. But progress isn't a sudden explosion. It's a collection of small actions repeated consistently. A single step may seem insignificant, but hundreds of small steps pave the way to massive success. Look at any major achievement in history, any person who transformed their life, any master of their craft. None of them started as experts. None of them started by doing everything at once. They all began with small steps, minimal actions that, over time, snowballed into something extraordinary. But most people don't understand this. They keep waiting for a surge of motivation to make dramatic changes instead of just starting with something so small that it's impossible to fail. So, next time you feel overwhelmed by how big something seems or how difficult a task looks, don't think about the final goal. Don't think about the mountain. Just focus on the next small step. The smallest action is infinitely more powerful than the greatest intention because intention doesn't change anything, but action, no matter how small, changes everything. Now that you understand this, now that you know how to deactivate your brain's resistance and get moving, there's something else you need. Because even if you start small, if you don't have a system that keeps you going, you'll eventually slide back into laziness. And this is where the second rule comes into play: create easy routines. Here's where most people fail again. Even if they manage to take that first small step, many can't sustain it. Why? Because they rely on motivation, and motivation is unreliable. It fades. Inspiration is fleeting. If you depend on either, you're setting yourself up for failure. Here's the truth that no one tells you. Habits are stronger than willpower. If you have to decide every day whether to do something or not, you will eventually fail. Fail. Not because you don't want to, not because you're not capable, but because every decision consumes energy. Most people live in a constant state of decision-making. Should I exercise today? Should I read? Is it a good time to work on my project? Every time you ask yourself these questions, you're inching closer to failure. Your mind is wired to choose the easiest path, the one that requires the least effort. If you have to decide every day whether to take action, you'll eventually find an excuse not to. The solution: eliminate the decision entirely. Don't think about whether you should do it. Make it inevitable. How? By building a system, a routine so simple, so automatic, that you don't need to spend any energy deciding. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you decide to brush your teeth every morning? No, you just do it. You don't need motivation. It's just part of your routine. That's the goal with your productive actions, to make them automatic, a natural part of your day. And here's the thing: the best routine isn't the one that requires the most effort, it's the one that requires the least. You don't need to start with brutal discipline. You need to start with something so easy that it's impossible to fail. If you want to exercise more, don't rely on motivation. Create an environment that makes it unavoidable. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Place your shoes by your bed and schedule a time where working out is the only logical option. The less effort it takes to start, the harder it becomes to find an excuse. If you want to read more, don't rely on willpower. Make it so easy that you can't ignore it. Put a book on your nightstand, set a daily reminder, and build a routine that includes just 1 page a day. No pressure, no decision-making, just a small action repeated every day until it becomes automatic. That's how you break the cycle of laziness. Not by trying to change everything at once, but by mastering the art of small, consistent actions.